Hi, I'm Rachel Land. I'm Chief Customer Officer at Voodle, and I'm here to share highlights from our report that we just put out called the Hybrid Workplace Report. So excited to share that with you here at the Digital by Default conference. And I actually love that phrase, digital by default, probably even better than the word hybrid that we use for our report. You know, people say distributed, flexible, remote. All these words mean different things to different people, but digital by default really kind of hones in on the reality of this shift, which is people are going to be working from anywhere, and if you're remote anything, you need to be remote first in the way that you work, and that will ensure more productivity, more inclusion, all the good things you're looking for. And it means more asynchronous work, more documentation is important. And so I love that phrase, digital by default. Okay, so our report, we surveyed 800 knowledge workers and combined that with the expertise of from our advisor, Dr. Britt Andreatta, who is a researcher and expert in the brain science of teams and the brain science of leadership, and how the humans in this equation react to change. And of course, this is a massive change, and we've been going through a lot of change. So our report blended the survey data and the expert data, and what really bubbled up was 5 challenges we need to think about as we make this big transition, and then 3 positive steps you can take right away to make sure you're developing a winning hybrid experience. And our survey, like every survey like this that you've seen, really shows that the genie's out of the bottle. The way we work is going to change. Only 11% of our respondents said they wanted to go back fully in person, which is similar to many surveys that you've seen. And really the preference is some sort of flexible hybrid setup. All right, so jumping into the challenges. The first one we noticed is that this big shift, this big sea change, is really reframing the war on talent. And as it says here, the best talent won't work for companies that ignore the remote work challenges and don't support their remote workers. And if you don't invest in things like building personal connections, building trust, then as Britt says here, it will result in decreased productivity and, ultimately attrition. And we've seen, when Google says we're going back to the office full on, just like the old days, immediately Twitter saying, hey, we support distributed workers, come work for us. So battle lines are being drawn, and it's something really that, employers need to be concerned about. The next challenge, similarly, about supporting your teams, but this about culture. And this has been a discussion that you've seen kind of in the industry about, if your culture is really based on, heavy on the benefits, the ping pong, the snacks, all those kinds of things. Once all of that was just eliminated overnight, it laid bare whether, underneath that you had a strong culture where everybody understood the mission, vision, and values. They felt connected, they felt aligned, they felt like the things that they were doing were delivering and supporting the mission. So it's really kind of upended the way that you build culture. It's not about the happy hours and those kinds of things. It's really about true human connection. And our survey found that lack of human connection was really the thing that was, very and extremely challenging with the remote work, along with things that you would expect like Zoom fatigue. But there are challenges there, and the old ways of developing those connections and that culture is different. Now it has to be infused in all the interactions between managers and team members, and with team members amongst themselves. And that your leaders and your managers are really going to play a critical role here, and it's about your values and your mission more than yummy snacks. And kind of connected to this is inclusion and belonging, and these are words that were in the discussion far before the pandemic, but getting it right matters more than ever. And just like the forced remote, experiment shined a light on culture, it also shined a light on inclusivity and belonging. And our data showed that people, now that they're stuck on the video calls, they're not feeling like their voice is heard. They're not feeling like they're developing authentic relationships. And they're also noticing their colleagues' voice isn't being heard. And so being deliberate and, really looking at the inequities that maybe were in the way things happened in the office, and not just rebuilding that a second time, but in a remote environment, is really, one of those big challenges. And a lot of people want to get back to normal. We're getting vaccinated, but this whole return to normal can be a bit of a, kind of falsehood. It's people are questioning, really, was it the good old days? Maybe there was only a set of people that really had a strong connection at work. Maybe a lot of people were left out of the happy hours or the other things because they had to take care of their children or an elderly parent, or, whatever it may be. I think a lot of this like nostalgia for the good old days is about, or this idea that there was like all this serendipity and hallway moments and water cooler moments that were missing, but it wasn't always experienced equally. And that's something that you really need to be aware of as you're rebuilding, that there may be other ways that are more transparent, more inclusive, that you can, recreate some of the great outcomes that you had from a water cooler moment. How do you make that so everybody gets to experience it, not just the two people that happen to be thirsty at the same time? And that really kind of brings us right into the tool set. We really, moved remote, and we had our text-based chat, like a Slack or a Teams, and we had our video calls like Zoom. And those tools really functioned to keep work happening, and we didn't see a dip in productivity. But as this becomes like the new way of working, there's a strong desire for from the workers to see new tools come to bear that were really purpose built for this, for the time that is now. Because these current tools might not totally suffice, but in our survey we saw executives, employees, they do believe that there's new ways of communicating, particularly asynchronously, that can fill the gap. So it's not just about this whole cut and paste from what happened before and just paste it up into the cloud. Darren Murph, the kind of oracle of remote work, is famous for talking about this, or warning people not to just try to say, well, this happened in the office, so now we'll do it digitally, or we'll use it, we'll have a Zoom call instead of a meeting, but rather look at what's happening, what the outcome you were trying to drive, and think about, is there a new way to get to that outcome that is more attuned to your people, some in the office, some at home, people all over the place, people in different time zones? Are there new ways of connecting? So those are the challenges. They're big challenges, but that kind of leads right into, well, what can you do to set yourself up for success? And it's a great opportunity. And that's really what we came away from this report with, that it's not like doom and gloom and this is so difficult and hybrid work is impossible because you're going to have two classes of employees, the on-premise employees and the off-premise employees. There really are solutions that can make this, into a build back better type solution. So first step that we recommend is thinking about your culture space and not thinking about it as your physical office and those different hangout areas or the place where you guys do your offsites, but think about it digitally and what type of tools could support that. As you see here, 54% of our respondents said their company culture had suffered, and 74% said there needs to be new tools to address this challenge. The current tools aren't cutting it. And if you look at the younger generation, it's even more. They want new tools, and they want ones that, meet the expectations that they've been building in their personal lives. And, they communicate very richly, whether it's with Instagram stories or TikTok, with their, in their personal lives, and they get to work and it's type, read. It doesn't work the same way. So really think about, where does culture live? And what, in this kind of digital by default world. Step two is thinking about inclusion in a whole new way. Now, of course, you have your DEI initiatives, and those are long-term, and it's a journey. It never ends. Everybody can always be better in this space. No one has 100, perfect score. So that will go on. But in the near term, think about ways that everybody on your team can be heard, that they can come to work, bring their whole selves, be authentic, transparent, and heard. And one of the things we found in our survey is that people, as I was just saying, they're using short video, they're using different ways to communicate in their personal life, and they're perfectly willing to try new things at work. And even more, like this 80% of the respondents were thinking about how short video could fit into that as a way to really show up and say, here I am, my dog's over here, I'm at home, I'm getting work done, I just had a great idea, and doing it just in a whole new way with new tools. And the final step we thought about that came through from the research is around this habit of micro-connections is how we're defining it. But instead of thinking about, okay, we need to have the big quarterly offsite to bring us all together and form relationships, or we need to organize, one-on-one, hour coffee, virtual coffee dates, or those kinds of things. If you can kind of weave in human elements and human connections all along the way, it's really kind of building this strong foundation for you versus kind of waiting for those quick hits of the offsite or the big annual gathering. And it's really kind of flipping the idea of microaggressions, which is one of the kind of most negative things that we might recall from office life, and turning it into positive micro connections. And one of the ways, again, we think you can achieve that is through short video, where you're really, being your own authentic self and connecting with people without requiring yet another video call that's, on your calendar for at least a half hour, if not an hour at a time. So those are the highlights. The report we built is very beefy. I think it's like 30 pages, lots of great data, lots of great insights, but it was fun to share the highlights with you. Would love for you to head down to Voodle. You can download your own copy of the report. Email me at rachel@voodle.com. I'd absolutely love to talk to you about your transition to hybrid. And maybe if Voodle can help, but either way, I'm really interested in just hearing about how people are experiencing these challenges, if these challenges ring true with you, and if the solutions might be things that you might want to try. So thank you again.